Hello, I'm Robin Vincent and here's what's cool in computer music technology in the July edition of Molten Music Monthly. Phew, what a scorcher. So here we are in the middle of some kind of heat wave. Oh, I suppose it is July. So what better time to slink off to your little studio under the stairs and get chewing on some cool new things. This month we get terribly retro with some terrible sounds from an Adlib sound card. Emulator 2 arrives and is instantly annoying. Behringer tease a new synth that could be really awesome. Waves pop up with a cool new Rhodes piano. Sonic Function make Ableton Live actually look good with tricky traps. We learn how to unhinge our recording with Sylvia Massy. Steinberg drop 32-bit support. Audient release a cool little audio interface. With Sensel Morph you can now print your own control surface. And is Native Instruments about to release Komplete 11. For this and more, let's go and have a look. But first, the Windows 10 anniversary update is upon us. Oh, updates, how we love updates. Well, you know, we've got to kind of suck it up because we've bought into an update-infused ecosystem. That's just the way of things. Traditionally, people who make music on computers don't really like updates. We tend to turn that sort of function off because there's this fear that an update's going to come along and it's going to ruin our perfectly tweaked and tuned system. Actually, that so rarely happens. In fact, I can't even remember the last time that ever happened. In fact, I've got a sneaky suspicion that this is kind of an Apple fear that's been pushed in the PC direction, because every time there's an update to OS X, nothing works. Nothing works. You've got to wait for Avid and everybody else to update their plugins and their software and their hardware drivers to work on the next El Capitan Fruity something or other, I don't know what it's called, the next version of OS X. We don't tend to get that on Windows. Updates come in and they make sort of stuff better, but they don't really tend to break anything. But anyway, with Windows 10 we have embraced the idea that Microsoft are going to supply us with updates that do good things and don't do bad things. That's part of the deal. And as we no longer have no way to prevent them, we're just going to have to enjoy the ride and stop being so fearful. But anyway, in any day now, the anniversary update is going to come along and it's got lots of new and exciting things in, none of which have anything to do with music creation or music production. What we've found so far of Windows 10, that every update that's come along has been good. It's improved things, or it's fixed something, or it's made something better, which is kind of all you can ask for, really. So I have every confidence that the anniversary update is going to be nothing but good news for us Windows 10 users. But if you're scared, make a backup. Make a backup now. Right, back in the bad old days when all PCs were beige and your 14-inch screen took up your entire desk, they only had a tiny little speaker to make sound or music. It just went beep. That was kind of it. Until a Canadian company, Adlib, came along with the very first sound card. It plugged into the motherboard and gave you a Yamaha synth chip right there within your computer. And this totally revolutionized PC gaming, or it kind of invented it in many ways, because before that you had games with not really any sound other than the odd bleep. I mean, all the previous computers like the BBCs or the Commodore 64, the Spectrum, they all had vastly superior sound to the IBM PC. And it was this Adlib card that actually enabled the PC to really evolve into a potential gaming machine. The synth had 9 channels and 2 oscillators and was kind of FM and additive synthesis, and was overall a bit crap. But Yamaha built keyboards on these things, so, you know, it had something going for it, and this was the early 90s after all. And this was all well before samples or MP3, so all the music was made on this sort of crappy little synth. But it started this revolution and got people interested in making music for games. Within a year or two, Creative Labs had invented the Sound Blaster and it was all over for Adlib. But even games today often come with a stamp on the side that says it's Adlib compatible. So why am I telling you this? Well, a crazy sample company called SampleScience have sampled the entire Adlib sound engine and are making it available to you as a VST instrument for 13 quid. Awesome. Go and chip tune yourself to death. Been waiting for this forever. You know I'm a big fan of Smith & Martin Emulator Pro. I've done numerous videos on it. I love it, moving about, creating stuff, making your own multi-touch controller for things. It's awesome, but the development has been so slow and there's been issues and things with it that just have been slightly frustrating, and it's just this sort of the glacial movement of development has started to get really up my nose, to the point that I haven't used it in quite a little while. However, Smith & Martin suddenly became something called Touch Innovations, and I thought, oh well, maybe something new and exciting is going to happen. And they started releasing or announcing interesting bits of odd sort of hardware. But along with that, they have just released Emulator 2. It's been completely redesigned, rewritten. It's now an enormous, extraordinary, fantastic, different piece of software, which should be absolutely awesome, but it's not quite. First of all, it's frustrating because when I bought Emulator Pro back in the day, years ago, it said that I would get a lifetime supply of updates. I would never have to purchase it again. I would always be part of their little emulator family. No, it's not happening. Emulator 2 is not, they say, the same product. It's a different thing. It's not an extension of Emulator Pro. It's been completely redone, and so they can't honour this crazy idea of lifetime updates, which is very sad. I'm very sad about that. And along with that, they've decided to move to a subscription model. So rather than paying, say, $99 to have the software for life, as I still do have the old version for life, obviously, instead they've moved to a subscription model, which is at around $20 a month. I mean, $20 a month. I mean, that's the same as what I pay a month for Pro Tools and Adobe Photoshop, which is something that I use all the time, whereas Emulator, I'm likely to use it on occasion and in particular sessions or in interesting performances. So for me, the subscription model, I don't know, I'm not convinced by that, which is a shame because I want to get into it and start using it, and I'm at the moment kind of stumbled on having to buy in to something which will stop working once I no longer give them any money. But anyway, what does the new version do? I have absolutely no idea. There are no videos. I managed to get a few screenshots out of them, which was quite an exclusive, I think. But the website tells you nothing. As I say, there's no videos, there's no demos, there's no way of knowing exactly how it's different or what's going on or how great and awesome it could possibly be, as undoubtedly it is. So, you know, the release of Emulator 2 seems to be a little bit of a misfire. However, I have talked to them and they do seem like nice people and really into what they're doing. It's just they haven't quite got it sorted out yet. And they have now released a demo version, but it does require you to sign up for subscription in order to use the 10-day demo, after which I suppose you have to then tell them you don't want to then continue using it. Which is a bit of a fuss, really, but never mind. Anyway, hopefully very soon I will get into the demo version and do a proper video of what that's all about, because it looks like it could be awesome. It has all these templates. In fact, it has a template shop to take even more money from you. So, Emulator 2 then. Hopefully awesome. We'll see. Behringer have been teasing a bit of a synthesizer. I know this isn't strictly computer music, but I don't care. It's music technology. I love it, and synths are fabulous. It looks an awful lot like a Roland Juno, but you can't really see it. They've got all these very out of focus shots and sideways shots and things. Oh, did I just see that? Oh, I don't know, did I? Kind of stuff, which is starting to get on my tits, to be honest. It's getting a little bit annoying. I don't know whether we can stand anymore. There's been 3 teaser videos, each with these sort of synthesizer user artist type people going, oh yeah, it's really great. Oh, look, oh, that kind of thing. Ugh. Just want to see the product. Show us the product, show us what it does, and then we can go yay about it. But by the looks of things, it's a polyphonic synthesizer, analog throughout, except for the digitally controlled oscillators or something.
So much
I don't really know. It's bound to sound pretty fruity and to be great value for money. So, you know, looking forward to that. It's very unexpected to find a sample-based instrument created by Waves. I mean, Waves are famous for their effects plugins. They do huge, massive libraries of effects plugins on all sorts of things. And then to suddenly produce an electric piano software synth is just a bit weird. However, it looks great. It's got a bunch of effects in it, of course, which are going to be excellent. But apparently they spent years and years, decades, hundreds of years, whole lifetimes, painstakingly, what does that really mean, painstakingly? Painstakingly sampling some old electric Rhodes they found knocking around, and have now produced and turned that into the Electric 88 Rhodes electric piano. It's great, it sounds great. I think the demo video that they did, the song in the background, is awful. Why did they do that? It's just not a very nice piece of music. I don't think it shows it very well. Couldn't they play Shake Your Tail Feather or something? I mean, honestly. But anyway, an electric piano, it's $39 if you get in there quick. It's well worth it, I think. It's a great thing. I love a Rhodes electric pianos. I think they're awesome. I probably have at least 5 different ones, and they're always enjoyable to play, and this one is no exception. I've always wanted to get into Max for Live, but it just sort of does my head in. I'm just not a developer. However much I try, I just can't seem to get into it. However, it's always seemed like a really interesting tool for Ableton Live, and that it can do very, very interesting things. I've just not been able to get beneath the surface. So when something like Tricky Trap's creative Contraptions comes along, it sort of reinvigorates my interest in something like the architecture of Max for Live, because it really shows off what it can do. I mean, Ableton Live is the dullest of dull DAWs out there. It's just grey and dull and flat with little coloured blocks every now and again. But on the whole, it's really dull. Whereas this loads up as this awesome display of colour and activity and movement and things going around. So what the hell is it? Well, it's kind of a bunch of sequencers. It's a bunch of sounds and a bunch of effects that run within Ableton Live and manipulate MIDI data all over the shop. It kind of gives you the impression that you could probably pull off some kind of performance live in front of people and not look like a complete idiot. I don't know, but it looks cool anyway. And it's all for about $59, and you must have Ableton Live Suite 9.6 and Max for Live 7. So being really cool and in this industry for many years, I'm of course very familiar with the work of Sylvia Massy. No, I'd never heard of her either. But then I've never really heard of any producers, because I'm just not interested in that kind of thing. I'm just not interested in these individuals. I prefer to be messing about doing my own thing, I suppose. Is that bad? Anyway, she's worked with lots of really cool artists like Johnny Cash and Prince and Red Hot Chili Peppers and System of a Down and Skunk Anansie and all sorts of people, and her particular modus operandi is to be crazy. She does out-of-the-box thinking like as a professional sport. And she's released a book filled full of fabulous tales and illustrations and anecdotes about how to break all of the rules in the recording environment. Which is brilliant, because let's face it, you know, we've all got books on our shelves about recording that are very dull and textbook-like and tell you all the things you should be doing. Whereas this tells you the complete opposite. It says you should be throwing that guitar straight out of the window and recording it as it goes while you're sitting up a tree, drinking stuff and pouring paraffin over your piano and setting fire to it, and recording that while in the back of a van jumping off a cliff. She talks about the gear, she talks about the software, she talks about how to use things, how to plug things together, and how to just be creative and adventurous in the recording space. It's a massive breath of fresh air. I think it's a fabulous thing, and she's obviously and evidently a seriously talented woman. So get the book, love the illustrations, and go and make some cool music in a very experimental way, inspired by a very cool lady. Steinberg have announced that they are no longer going to support any of this 32-bit nonsense. There will be no 32-bit version of Cubase or Nuendo when the new ones come out. 64-bit Windows has been mainstream really since Windows 7, and so there's really precious reason to have a 32-bit version of Windows running on anything anymore. Perhaps if you're using some just terribly old software that must run in 32-bit and it can only run on a 32-bit OS, then fair enough. But I think, honestly, you really need to kind of get over it and find something else. 64-bit Windows brings much better performance. You can access more than the 32-bit limit of 4 GB of RAM. which is nothing these days. Your phone probably has 4 gigs of RAM, so we need to move beyond that, and 64-bit Windows allows you to do that. But the main reason why this is news is because they are also discontinuing their support of VST Bridge. VST Bridge was a nasty piece of software that allowed you to run 32-bit plugins in the 64-bit version of Cubase. It was always trouble. 32-bit plugins can often be old and crappy, and it would be the one thing that would crash your system. So, you know, I think Steinberg is completely right in throwing that out. It will be a massive relief to everybody. Let's just stick with 64-bit software on 64-bit Windows with 64-bit plugins. That's got to be the way forward. However, if you have some dodgy old plugin you need to run, then you could use something like JBridge, and that would act as the VST bridge for your plugins. But don't do it, you're just going to mess up your system. Just go 64-bit. Hopefully other manufacturers will follow, and then we can stop all of this dual installation of 32-bit and 64-bit plugins, which then end up all over your system in different folders and all that kind of crap. So 64-bit only, yay! Let's go for that. Audient tend to make really kind of posh stuff, so it's nice when they introduce something a bit more affordable for the rest of us. The ID4 is a very simple 2-in, 2-out audio interface with a nice big knob on the top that you can use to move any parameter that you stick your mouse on. I like the desktop style interface. I'm always a fan of that kind of form factor. Their previous interfaces, the ID14 and 22, have all been well received. How good are the drivers? Who knows, but it's a decent box for nearly £100. I think it's 119. So yeah, not bad. Pretty sure I've talked about this before, the Sensel Morph. It's kind of a multi-touch slab of stuff that can be any kind of controller you like. It's all pressure sensitive, so you put a sort of a flexible overlay over the top, and then you can move that around and manipulate it, and it takes all of that data in and does funny things to your computer. But what makes it cool, and why I'm talking about it now, is that there was a mention at a show recently when the person being interviewed said that they have a feature where you're able to 3D print your own overlay. So you can design an arrangement of controls that you want to use, send it into them, and they will 3D print it and send it back for about $20, which is amazing. Or you can print it out yourself, of course. How that actually works in what format you use, how you design it, and whether they're providing some kind of template for that, I don't really know. But the idea is pretty awesome. I mean, I guess it's like having multi-touch software. It's a bit like having Emulator, where you can design whatever interface you like. However, you've got that little bit more sort of tactileness with this overlays that's actually there with sort of controls on. You're still using finger and pressure, but it's perhaps slightly more tactile than multi-touch, perhaps, but then perhaps a lot less versatile. I don't know, it looks pretty cool, and this 3D print thing sounds cool. That's the sort of thing I like to talk about. The other day we found an image of what looks like a promotional shot of Native Instruments Komplete Ultimate 11. Now, I've waited quite a while for version 11. I can't quite remember when 10 came out. I don't care. But anyway, the new version looks like it's just around the corner. Currently, Komplete 10 is on a bit of a deal on the website until the end of July, which is perhaps another indication that something is about to come along. It's really difficult to see from the image what's new, but of course it will have Reactor 6 and Reactor 6 blocks, that kind of stuff in it, but I really hope that there's some massive amount of development, like Contact 6 would be brilliant, Guitar Rig 6 would also be excellent, things like that. I mean, personally, I find their upgrade path to be really frustrating. They seem to offer the same upgrade price regardless of what version of Komplete you currently have. So if you have version 1 of Komplete, it costs the same to upgrade to version 10 as it does if you have version 9. It just doesn't seem right. And because of that, I've kind of not upgraded every time, because I can wait until the next version comes out and get that for the same price as I did the one before. And there's not always such a massive change that you want all of that new stuff. With Komplete 10, there were a few new bits, but there was nothing really that blew me away. And so, you know, I didn't go for it. But it's been ages now until Komplete 11. And I'm kind of desperate to update it again. Although, do I use any of that stuff? I mean, it's an awesome bundle. Once you've bought into it, invested into it, it's just an amazing range of software, instruments and sounds and effects. It's extraordinary. Do I use any of it? I don't know. I use some of it. Does it make it worthwhile? Yeah, I keep telling myself that it does. However, don't buy into the deal that's on the website. Don't buy Komplete 10 at a special price, because the upgrade to 11 will still cost more than buying 11 on its own because of their crazy upgrade policy. So hold off, hang around until August, and if you're in the market for something amazing, then Komplete 11 is kind of what you want. And finally, Chime Sharp has been released. What the heck is that? Well, the original Chime, released in 2010, was this awesome sort of sequencer Tetris game thing that I really got into. It came with sort of 5 tracks of music that you place blocks on a grid, and as you sort of fought to complete the game against the clock, it evolved and remixed the music as you went. It was just fabulous. And there's a brand new version called Chime Sharp, which has been sort of taken on and developed via Kickstarter by one of the original developers. The new version features 15 new tracks from all sorts of interesting artists, of whom I don't really remember the names of. And it's kind of the perfect way to relax after making music in your studio. I mean, you know, stuff Pokemon Go, you don't want to be going out wandering around, you want to be relaxing in your studio with the massive speakers and music flowing through you while your brain is manipulating blocks on a grid. That's gaming right there, that is. It's on Steam now, it's a tenner. Go and get yourself a copy. I'm putting a lot of energy into video making and reviews at the moment, so there's a lot more goodies to come. Do I think I say that a lot? But I really mean it this time. I'm currently in the middle of reviewing Traction 7, which I know I started about 6 months ago, but I've come back to it with fresh eyes, and I think that's going to be really interesting. I'm going to do a few more videos on running Reactor with the Surface Pro 4. If you haven't seen the noodling that I did, then please check that out in the YouTube channel. I'm going to very shortly be doing a roundup of multi-touch controller software, of which there's several now, which is getting really, really interesting. And check out my review of Reason 9, which is going to appear in, I think, the next edition of Sound on Sound magazine. So that's it. That'll have to do. Until next time, go make some tunes. Go make some tunes.